Okay. Nobody here yet, that's alright. I'm just going to start opening all the packaging so that I don't have to do that while anything else is going on. Alright. Do what? Maybe 3 at a time. I've got some time, so I don't need to rush it. Just prepping the packs so that I don't have to stop for so long in between each one. Just gonna stack them up on the side, 3 piles of 12. Who hit the Pentagon? Why would they do that? Did they hit it with a forklift? The Hamburglar. Sounds like something he would do. He was on withdrawal. He needed a hamburger. Somebody said, hey, if you hit the Pentagon with this forklift, I'll give you a hamburger. He totally did it. Bastard. Chatterfang, yeah, that'd be great. Pulled a Chatterfang back in MH2. I think I even have a copy in Chinese. But another one would be great, because the art on this one's really cool. Lets me get the box out of the way a lot earlier, too. Just a couple more. I may need some help getting some kind of music set up for my friends that are watching right now. People that I know in real life. But every time I try to set up the stream on my Mac and tell it to stream the screen, it's like, I can't do that. Awesome. I've got a wedding to go to tomorrow, so I'm not going to be free anytime then, but might have some free time on Sunday, although I need to get some classwork finished up. Okay, well, that's all of them cut open. I'm going to go ahead and just start opening. Well, I mean, they're cut open, so just revealing what is inside. I'll kind of try to do it the same way I did with the Modern Horizons 3 last week. If I pull a card that I haven't seen yet, I'll read it out. I'm probably going to skip through a lot of the commons and the uncommons. But I'll just kind of give some opinions on it and try to give it the benefit of the doubt. So we've got Crumb and Get It. Okay, Crumb and Get It. Funny that it came up first because I actually had something to say about this. I think it's a decent combat trick, mostly because you can give your opponent a food. And that sounds stupid, but Igra is the entire reason. If you can give your opponents food for Igra, then they have the ability to sacrifice it. Granted, they might gain life or whatever, but it gives you more chances to trigger Igra. It's in white, so it's not ideal, but it's fine. Daggerfang Duo. I may have talked about this one on the last time I was opening Bloomburrow. I think this is one of the better duos. It's got Death Touch, which is great, and in black, Self Mill is very valuable. Pearl of Wisdom, again, another common, pretty decent. Fits perfectly in the Otter archetype. 2 cards for essentially what's going to be 1 colorless mana and 1 blue. That's a great deal. It is sorcery speed, so it's not perfect, but few things are. Bleeded Provisioner, yeah. It is a 5 CMC with 1 white, 3/4 flyer. When it enters, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control without flying. I think it's too expensive for what it does. It might have some niche use, but I just feel like it's too expensive. If you're running 1 flyer, you're probably running more than 1 flyer, so the fact that you have to target a non-flying creature with its effect is a little bit sad. But it is just a common, so it can't be super good, otherwise it would just kind of break the economy. Take out the trash. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you can discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. So it's basically a lightning bolt that also allows you to loot. I suppose it's not fully a lightning bolt, because it is a non-player target, but it's fine. Cash grab. Best common in the set. This is... I don't know how this got through as just a common. I think it should be an uncommon at the very least. It is a fantastic card to pull in the common slot. 3-tree mascot. It's a mana filter. You can use it once per turn. It's a card. It indeed exists. I think you might feel like running it in like a sealed event if you've pulled enough creatures to go 1 creature tribe, but it's 2 for a 2/1. It's kind of weak. But the mana filter can be useful. Reptilian Recruiter, 5 with 2 red, 4/2 Trampler, and it lets you active betrayal one of your opponent's creatures. Yeah, active betrayal. The exact wording says... Oop, I bumped my table. Exact wording says... When Reptilian Recruiter enters, choose target creature. If that creature's power is 2 or less, or if you control another lizard, gain control of that creature until end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. So that's the active betrayal bit. I think its targeting conditions are very fair. You're likely going to be running this in a lizard tribal anyway, so you will be able to get off the active betrayal trigger. But even if somehow, let's say you get wrathed or something, you can play this and take one of your opponent's tokens or something, one of their token creatures, and just kind of try to recover. Goes away, but... Hivespine Wolverine. This was a pretty decent bomb and sealed. I used one. It's 5 with 2 green for a 5/4. And when it enters, you choose one of the following 3 abilities. You put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. You can target it with its own ability. It fights target creature token. It does have to be a creature token, so it can't just come out and just slam your opponent's bomb in the face for 5. Or destroy target artifact or enchantment. Having that option is always a good thing to have in green. Artifact, enchantment, hate, it's good. Lupin Flower Village, one of the non-basics. You can only spend the white mana it creates to cast creature spells. You can also, one colorless, one white, tap sack it. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a bat, a bird, a mouse, or a rabbit card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's sort of like a limited tutor, but I think you're getting rid of a land. It's a land that comes into play untapped. You could hypothetically pull this late game and still get some value out of it, because you don't really care about all your lands when you're turn 8, You probably already have enough lands, so it's nice to have as an option. And again, since it doesn't come into play tapped, you can easily play it out turn 1, and you can have a white mana to spend on a 1-drop. I think its second ability really limits you, and you sort of have to run it in a tribal, but that isn't a problem for me because most of the decks that I run are tribals, so. Peerless Recycling. 2 with 1 green. Gift a card. You get to make your opponent draw a card. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised, instead return 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. I have a deck that I have been envisioning, and maybe next time on stream I can start putting it together. But the entire idea is forcing your opponent to draw cards, and you benefit from it. So it's in the color identity. It's going to be Timur colors, so red rug, so red, blue, and green. That would fit right in there, because you get a little bit of graveyard recursion. You get stuff back in your hand that you might want, that your opponent got rid of, and you get to force your opponent to draw cards. Mockingbird, that's the rare. X, 1 blue for a 1/1 flyer, and you can have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird in addition to its other types, and it has flying. So this is just the creature that you target, but better, because now it has flying. Island. Foil Thought Stalker Warlock. Hopefully I can get it to focus. I've moved my light source since last week. There we go. Thought Stalker Warlock, 3 for a 2/2 with 1 black in the cost. Menace. When it enters the battlefield, choose target opponent. If they lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. So they get to just discard 1 card. You don't get to pick it. Thornplate Intimidator token, which will go on the side there. Pack 2. Nope. Waxwane Witness, 4 for a 2/4, Flying Vigilant. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, Waxwane Witness gets +1/+0 until end of turn. I could see that being kind of funny if you give it lifelink and something like Double Strike, because the first hit would cause Waxwane Witness to then be more powerful for the second hit. I don't think there's anything wrong with this card. It's a flyer. I feel like it's way better in sealed than it would be in other formats, but there's nothing horribly wrong with this card. It's fine. Agate Blade Assassin, 2 with 1 black for a 1/1. Whenever Agate Blade Assassin attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Something like that would be actually combo really well with Waxwane Witness, because you are declaring the attack. So damage hasn't even gone through yet. You've declared the attack. You gain a life, which triggers this card. Your opponent loses a life, which triggers this card again. This is already attacking as a 4/4 then. So that's pretty cool. Runaway Together. One of my favorite cards, actually. I think it's really good removal, and it lets you control what creatures you want to recast from your side of the field. It's 2-drop, 1 blue. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hand. You could technically target 2 different opponents' creatures if you're playing EDH, but I've only ever used this in sealed formats, and I've always really liked it because if you're getting hit with a Wrath or something, you can bounce the creature that you really want to keep to hand and just send a token back to your opponent's hand. You know, it's an unsummon, but you get 1 more target, so that's a good one. I like that one. Tempest Angler. 3-drop with 2 split, is it? Cost. It's a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Tempest Angler. So it has better prowess. It doesn't just get +1/+1 until end of turn. It gets +1/+1 anytime you cast a non-creature spell. A 1/1 counter, I mean. Very, very good. I think it's good as a 2/2. I would even say as a 1/1 it would probably be fine, because you're able to get some really good value out of the creature. Might of the Meek, a 1 red cost instant. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse. Draw a card. Cantrip that gives a creature trample, possibly. Or no, it gives them trample, yes. It might give them +1/+0. For a 1-drop, I would say that's great for sealed. For cantrippy decks, like something like Feather, that would be really good because you hit, Feather with it and it targets all of your creatures. That's good. Good one. I like Might of the Meek. Treeguard Duo, 4-drop with 1 green for a 3/4. When it enters until end of turn, target creature you control gains Vigilance and gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. This one requires a little bit more setup than the... Which one is it? The Daggerfang Duo. I think it has its place, and in its place, it's great. But Daggerfang Duo is just a little bit more immediately useful because the self-mill happens immediately, and it's impactful for longer than just +X/+X until end of turn. It can help you, buff a Trampler or something like that. That's great. But it just, it's fine. Like, I don't think this is the worst one. The worst one is the Bat Bird, in my opinion. But that's just because it costs too much. We'll probably run into that one. I'll save my spiel for that time. Or Squeak. It's a 1-drop red enchantment. When it enters, target creature or an opponent controls cannot block this turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. Haste enabler is great. 1/1, good. Target creature can't block. Awesome. It makes your creatures with menace a little bit more threatening because you are removing a good target for them to block with. Yeah, not much more to say about that. Playful Shove. Deals 1 damage to any target. Draw a card. Sorcery speed. I think that one's kind of weak, but the drawing a card is nice. Drawing a card is always good. And it is only 1 damage. So I suppose the best way to use that would be to actually target your own creatures with, like, Enrage. There is the one green dinosaur from Caverns. I think it was just in Caverns. Lost Caverns of Ixalan, I should say. If it takes damage, it gets to fight. So you can just start the chain by dealing 1 damage to it. You get to draw a card, and then you just get to start fighting things until there's nothing left to fight or your creature dies. Either way, I think it's a win-win. Plume-Creed Escort. 2 with 1 blue for a 2/1 flash flyer. When it enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. I like that. I think that's fine. It gives one of your creatures hexproof, and it has flash. Flash is great. It lets you play this card when you would want to play this card. So, I mean, it would be kind of hard to play it if it didn't have flash. So, Lilypad Village. It's the same as the white one. Where'd it go? But in blue. Lupin Flower Village. But this one has Surveil on it, instead of having to sacrifice it. I think that's much better, because you can just keep using this ability, and Surveil is a very good self-mill engine. So, I would say that Lilypad might be a little bit better than Lupin Flower. Bandit's Talent. Oh boy, that's a saga. Light's still a little bit funky. Hold on a second. Let's see if that's a little bit better. Bandit's Talent. There's a whole lot of words there. 2 with 1 black. When it enters, each opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card. You can level up for 1 black. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they lose 2 life. The last one is 4 with 1 black, the last level up. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. I think for EDH, if you're running like a discard style deck, that's great. It racks your opponent, and it also lets you get more card advantage over your opponent. So that's really good. Hard Claw. This is my rare. 1 red for a 1/2. Whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. You can also pay 2 with 1 red, put a 1/1 counter on Hired Claw, activate only if an opponent lost life this turn, and only once each turn. I mean, I think that's fine. I don't think this is going to break anything, but that's a perfectly reasonable ability, and it's probably going to get lightning bolted as soon as it hits 3 toughness, as it should. So that's kind of what you want it to do. Island. Head of the Homestead. 5 CMC with 2 Selesnya split cost. It's a 3/2. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens. I love that. Token time. Thought Chucker, 2-drop with 1 blue, 1/3. Threshold, 2 with 1 blue. Put a 1/1 counter on Thought Chucker and draw a card. Activate only if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard and only once. That's not once per turn, that is one time. You can only use that ability one time. I think it's while it's on the field. If it leaves the field, you can do it again. But I think that's a perfectly reasonable ability. Nocturnal Hunger. I need just a moment. Sorry about that. Nocturnal Hunger. 3-drop with 1 black. Instant speed. Gift of food. You can give your opponent a food token. Destroy target creature. If the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. I would pay 3 mana and 2 life to destroy target creature. I think that's good, and you also have the option to not lose the 2 life. So, it's nice to have options. Dazzling Denial. 2-drop with 1 blue. This is a counter spell. Instant speed. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. If you control a bird, counter that spell unless its controller pays 4 instead. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I like the ability to pay mana to stop a counter spell because you can short your opponent out more mana if they overcommit to something. Mind Drill Assailant. 4 with 2 Dimir, split cost, 2/5. Threshold as long as you control 7 or more cards in your graveyard. Gets +3/+0. So it could be 4 for a 5/5. 2 and a Dimir, Surveil 1. And you can do that as many times as you want because it's just a cost. If you're running blue-green self-mill, I don't see why this wouldn't be a card that you would put in your deck. Take out the trash. Druid of the Spade. 2 with 1 green. 3 CMC with 1 green. As long as you control a token, Druid of the Spade gets +2/+0 and has trample. So it could go up to a 4/3 with that and have trample. A 4/3 with trample isn't very easy to deal with. So, not bad. I like it. Ravine Raider, 1 black for a 1/1 with Menace. It's a lizard. You can give it +1/+1 for 2 mana, including 1 black. There's a lot of things that I would run before this. But I feel like in Sealed, it is actually kind of scary. Being able to buff your creature using mana that you didn't plan on using. That sounds good. You can keep it back as a blocker to threaten your opponent if you have enough mana open. There's some good options with that. Long River's Pull, 2 blue. Instant, gift a card. Counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. It's good to have the option. If you do just want to counter the creature spell, then you don't have to pay the gift cost. But if you want to counter a non-creature spell, then you do. So, options are always good. Consumed by Greed. 3 with 2 black. Gift a card. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. If the gift was promised, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. That, I don't know what to say. I feel like that's pretty good. You get to basically 1-for-1 or 1-for-1 but better. Giving your opponent a card in exchange for digging exactly what you want from your graveyard back to hand, I would probably take that trade on any normal day. Jolly Gerbils. Whenever you give a gift, draw a card. That's fun. It's 2 with 1 white for a 2/3. I don't think I saw this one before. Huh. That's pretty cool. There's Peerless Recycling again. Season of Weaving. 6-drop. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. 1 paw is draw. 2 paw to choose an artifact or creature you control. Create a token that's a copy of it. 3 paws to return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. I can't decide if that one's the strongest card or the weakest card out of the Weaving cycle. I think it has its uses. I mean, just paying 6 to draw 5 sounds like a bargain to me. Like, that's worst case scenario. Alright, what's the foil? Lightshell Duo. Rat Otter. Prowess. Prowess is good on that. It's a 4 with 1 blue for a 3/4. Move it closer. When it enters, surveil 2. It's great. I think Prowess is a great ability, especially in this set, especially with otters. It could be better, but it could definitely be worse. I think that is one of the better duos. And a token. Hey, another light shell. Life Creed. Oh no, it's not this one that I don't like. This one's fine. Life Creed Duo is 2 for a 1/2 with flying. Whenever another creature you control enters, gain a life. Great. There is nothing wrong with that. It's a Warden of Souls with flying. It costs 1 more, but who cares? It's good to have another. Early Winter. 5 with 1 black, instant speed, choose 1. Exile target creature or target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. It's a little bit sad that it's all you do is target the opponent and not the actual enchantment. They get to choose, but if they only control 1 enchantment, then they get to choose their only enchantment. So it's good. But I think the first ability is a lot better. And the fact that it's instant speed exile, I think is fine. It's just a little bit costly. If you can figure out a way to give this card some kind of affinity, or if somehow you could give the card Storm, I think it would be much more worthwhile to play. But as it is, it's fine. I think it's fine. It's probably better in sealed. Roughshod Duo. 3 with a red for a 3/2 and trample. Whenever you expend 4, a target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. I don't see any problem with this card. I just don't see any major benefits. Expend 4 is probably going to happen after turn 4. So it's good to be able to give one of your creatures +1/+1 and trample. But the creature itself is a little bit on the weaker side. 2 toughness means it dies to a lot of random things. Especially just like area burn spells. So it's not awful. I just think there are better options. Sticky Tongue Sentinel. 3 with 1 green for a 3/3 and a reach. When it enters, return up to 1 other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. I think it's interesting that it is a permanent, not just a creature, not just an artifact. I think the fact that it says permanent gives it a lot of versatility. And in a common, 3 for a 3/3 and reach, I don't think that this is a bad choice for a lot of decks. Especially if you want to recast things from your hand a lot. Pond Prophet, 2 for a 1/1. When it enters, draw a card. Its costs are also Simic splits. So I think a creature that is a cantrip is pretty great. I mean, just like the two of these together. You have Pond Prophet on the field from turn 2. You play Sticky Tongue. You get to bounce this, and then next turn you get to play it again and draw another card. You know? It's not overpowered, it's not broken, but it makes you feel good because you got to draw 2 cards off 1 creature. Or Squeak. Wix Patrol, 6 for a 5/3. When it enters, you mill 3 cards. When you do, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the the greatest mana value among cards in your graveyard. It's a 5/3 body on essentially a kill spell. I think it can double dip pretty effectively. This is kind of why I'm complaining about Roughshod Duo's low toughness, because all they would need to do is have... well, they're playing rats, so let's get a rat. Here. They've got a Thought Shulker in their graveyard, and that's the highest. Well, your Roughshod Duo's dead now. You know. 2 toughness is... it's more than 1, but... yeah. That's all it's more than. Spellgyre. 4 with 2 blue. Choose 1. Target counter spell or surveil 2. Then draw 2 cards. 2 very good options. But I feel like when I'm playing... I don't play blue self-mill though. So maybe other people would choose the surveil. But I would always choose the counter target spell. Surveilling 2 and then drawing 2 does sound nice, though. I could see instances, where it would be great to have that, but personally, the way that I play, I don't really utilize Surveil too much. I do know it's good, though. Driftgloom Coyote, 5 with 2 white for a 3/4. When it enters, you exile target creature an opponent controls until it leaves. If that creature had power 2 or less, put a 1/1 counter on Driftgloom Coyote. Well, it's kind of like an Oblivion Ring, but on a creature, but it is also... what's the word? It's incentivizing you to target weaker creatures. In this set, Offspring is a mechanic, so if you target an Offspring with the Exile trigger, that Offspring token is just gone forever, and you get to put the 1/1 counter on Driftgloom Coyote, so I could see it being useful there. I feel like 5 mana might be a little bit too expensive for a 3/4 otherwise. Paw Patch Formation, 2 with a green, choose 1, destroy target creature with flying, destroy target enchantment, draw a card, and create a food token. Instant speed. I really like that last ability there. Having the other 2 as options are pretty great too. Like, green loves their flying hate. Green loves their enchantment hate, so you can probably get away with just picking the 3rd option, especially because there's a lot of other ways to get the first 2 options. Move it closer. Now that the camera is actually focusing on everything pretty easily. I like that one, though. I don't think that's bad. Sunspine Lynx. 4 for a 5/4. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When it enters, deal damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. This card, I feel like, can be an absolute nightmare for certain decks. Especially the more colors they have in their deck and the more they have to rely on their non-basic lands. I think it's quite nice. But I also like to play mono red, so... There's the plains. Uncharted Haven. Uncharted Haven enters the battlefield tapped. As it enters, choose a color. Add 1 mana of the chosen color. I think lands like this are annoying. I don't like them. I have to remember what color I chose. There are better options. Couple cards got stuck in this pack. It's okay, all I saw was that I had a swamp in the pack. Not that great of a spoiler. Runaway Together, we talked about that one. Warren Elder, 2 for a 2/2, and it has the ability for you to pay 4 with a white. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is just a bear that lets you anthem your creatures every now and again. It is strictly better than Traveling Philosophers, unless you're playing it in a human deck, because then it's not a human. I have nothing else to say about it. It is better than nothing. Dire Sight, 3-drop with a black. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life. I like that. It is basically just Scry the Bones, but I think it costs 1 more than Scry the Bones. And instead of scrying, you are surveilling. I would honestly probably run both of them. Sky Skipper Duo. It is 5 for a 3/3 flyer. When it enters, exile up to 1 other target creature you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It's a little bit expensive, but I actually like the way that the second ability is worded, that you exile the creature and you return it during the next end step. If you want to, like, Whelming Wave something, or like the board, you can play your Sky Skipper. Granted, that already costs 5 mana, and Whelming Wave is going to cost even more. Just hypothetical here. You bounce everything, but you have that creature that's an exile that you've basically set to the side. And then it can come back. It's just a little bit too expensive. That's my only complaint about this one. Take out the trash. We had that one. Treetop Sentries, 4 with a green for a 2/4 reach. When it enters, you may forage. If you do, draw a card. I think foraging has potential. I think it's much better to sacrifice your food than exiling your grave for the ability. In general, the ability is, I think it's better to sacrifice the food. But having the option, if you really, really want that ability to trigger, having the option to exile cards from graveyard, good. It's a good thing to have options. Cindering Cutthroat. 3 with 1 mana being a Rakdos split. 3 for a 3/2. Lizard Assassin. Enters with a 1/1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. 2 with 1 of those mana being another Rakdos split. It gains Menace until end of turn. I feel like that would fit in most Rakdos decks because you want people to bleed and then you want to be rewarded for making people bleed. Heartfire Hero, 1 for a 1/1 mouse soldier. Valiant, when it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent, not just one, each. I mean, it's 1 for a 1/1. There are worse 1 for 1/1s. Its ability is pretty solid. Mind Whisker, 3 for a 3/2. The cost has 1 blue in that 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. As long as there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, creatures your opponents control, get -1/-0. I think just the ability to surveil 1 at the beginning of your upkeep every turn is great, because you can think, oh, do I really want this card, or should I just chuck it? Wandertail Mentor. Gruul, for a 2/2, whenever you expend 4, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And it is a mana dork. It is a mana dork that gets buff. There is one deck that I can think of where this card would be outstanding, and in any other case, it is just a mana dork that taps for either one of its colors. I think this card is pretty good. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's on the top of the power scale, but it's great. I like it. Stocking the Pantry. 1 green. Whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. You can tap 2 and remove a supply counter from Stocking the Pantry and draw a card. I think this is fantastic. I play around with a lot of 1/1 counters in decks. The second ability in particular, it doesn't have any other cost other than 2 generic. You don't have to... Well, I mean, you do have to remove the counter. Sorry. It does have another cost technically. But what I mean is you don't have to tap this enchantment. You don't have to sacrifice a food. You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary. It is just... When you put 1/1 counters on your creatures, you basically have the ability to draw cards later. You're rewarded for buffing your creatures, and I like that. Festival of Embers. Ugh. 5 with 1 red. Enchantment. During your turn, you may cast instants and sorcery spells from your graveyard by paying 1 life in addition to their other costs. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead, and you can pay 2 with 1 red to sacrifice it. I don't like this card. I think it can be good very late game, but the fact that you have to exile all the cards that you're using just means that you're limiting yourself a lot of the time. Like, you can work around it, sure, but it's just that limiting factor takes away from it, in my opinion. Swamp. The foil is Rabid Gnaw. 1 colorless, 1 red for an instant. Target creature you can control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. I like that a lot. It's a one-sided fight, and fighting itself is pretty good, so one-sided fighting is even better. I almost dropped one of the other packs. Oopsie. Sky Skipper, we had that one. Thistledown Players. 3 with a white for a 3/3. Whenever it attacks, untap target non-land permanent. That has potential to be very frustrating for your opponent. there's a lot going for that, being able to untap your stuff. I'm thinking like really degenerate, stupid cards that need to be untapped like the first turn they're played. Things like Nerviniel's Disc. Door to Nothingness. Things that are usually just really powerful or can be very powerful if you're allowed to activate them immediately on playing. So the ability to just play one of those really strong artifacts and you attack in with Thistledown and you just untap something that was not supposed to be untapped the first turn you played it. It's good. Savor, 2 with a black. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and create a food token. There is nothing wrong with that. That's pretty good. It's a removal, and you get a food. Baker's Bane, 2 for a 2/2. 2 with 1 green, I should say. When it enters, you create a food, and whenever you expend 4, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I think that's one of the better duos. It's really cheap. The abilities just kind of happen. Like, you get your food token. You can hold on to that food token as long as you want. You use that food token when it's beneficial for you. And, like I said, you're just going to wind up expending 4. It also only has 2 toughness, but it makes up for it by only costing 2 mana. The other one, let me find it, Roughshod. I think Roughshod is fine to be transparent, but I think there are just better options. It costs 3. It's a little bit more expensive. The fact that it lives with 2 toughness is just a little bit detrimental for its health. But Baker's Bane is a little bit more forgivable. Also, when you expend the 4 for this one, this creature gets the +1/+1. The other one, you choose a target creature to get +1/+1. So, I think in Baker's Bane duo's combination, the Squirrel and Raccoon, it fits in its own stuff better. But in a Raccoon deck, I would actually probably run both. So, Veteran Guard Mouse, 4 with one of the mana being a Boros split. For a 3/4, Mouse Soldier, Valiant, whenever it becomes the target of a spell or with a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, it gets +1/+0 and gains first strike. Then you get to scry 1. Scry support in this color combination, while it's not impossible to find, is difficult to find. So the fact that you're getting scry in Boros colors makes this a little bit unique. And because it's in Boros colors, because it's a mouse, you're going to be able to trigger Valiant often. Sazakap's Brew, 2 with a red. Gift a tapped fish. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you discard a card. Target player draws 2 cards. If the gift was promised, my eyes are betraying me, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Fine to trigger Valiant with. You do have to gift the tapped fish. That can be fine. I don't think gifting the fish normally hurts too much. High Stride, 1 drop, +1/+3, gains reach on tap. It's not bad. It's really good for sealed when your opponent swings in for what they think is lethal, and then you just, bam, I've got a wall on my side now. Clifftop Lookout, 3 with a green for a 1/2 reach. When it enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land. Not a basic land, just any land. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think Clifftop Lookout is quite good. It is essentially a rampant growth. You do not get to search the land yourself, since you're just top decking, but it's also attached to a 1/2 body with reach. So cost-wise, I think it's very cost-effective, and I sort of like the semi-randomness of what land you're going to pull. You might wind up burying stuff, but you're just going to shuffle your library again later anyway. Otterball Antics. 2 with a blue. Create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. If the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. And it has flashback. So you get to trigger that second part if you can cast the spell for its flashback cost from the grave. I like that one. Plume-Creed Mentor. 3 with Azorius cost. 2/3. Flying. Whenever Plume-Creed Mentor or another creature you control with flying enters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control without flying. This is kind of the same problem I have with the other one that I was complaining about earlier, the Pileated Provisioner, how you have to target a creature that does not have flying. If I were to run a bird, I'm probably going to run a bird in a bird tribal deck. Now, granted, there's some exceptions, like Thrumming Bird. I'm going to run that in probably an Infect, a blue-black Infect deck. If I'm running, I could probably run Sage Owl in whatever, just to ghetto scry. But a bird that only buffs non-birds, it's a little bit too specific. I would pass on that. I think in the set the ability is good, but out of the set it's a little weak. Essence Chamber. 2 with a white for a 2/1. Wait, what did I say? Essence Chamber? No, it's Essence Channeler. Maybe I should learn how to read. As long as you've lost life this turn, Essence Channeler has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Essence Channeler. When Essence Channeler dies, put its counters on target creature you control. That is excellent. It is 2 for a 2/1. You want to be able to find a way to lose life in bat decks anyway, and you're going to be gaining life. I think that's really good. Castrol, the Windcrested. 5 for a 4/5, and in its cost it also has Azorius colors, so 1 white, 1 blue. It's a flyer. Whenever 1 or more birds you control deal combat damage to a player, choose 1. Oh, just 1. I thought it was 1 or more. Just 1. First option, you may put a bird creature card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Put a 1/1 counter on each bird you control, or draw a card. If you can figure out a way to get rid of your finality counter, like if you... I don't exactly know the wording for finality counters, because my initial thought is unsummon the creature or exile it until the end of turn or something, and it would lose the finality counter. But I'm actually pretty sure finality counter says that if the creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. So I think the first, if you're running this in a really aggro deck, you can get away with using the first ability. But I think the other 2 abilities are a lot better most of the time. Foil Plains. Banishing Light. Oh, that's a reprint. 3 with a white. When Banishing Light enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. It's an O-ring. It's just an O-ring. Just an Oblivion ring. Nothing wrong with it. It just is. Nocturnal Hunger, had that one. Had that one. Crumb and get it, we had that one. Bonebind Orator. 2 with a black for a 2/2 Squirrel Warlock Bard. 4 with 1 black. Exile this card from your graveyard. Return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I think that graveyard ability is excellent. It's a little bit pricey, but being able to activate abilities in Grave in Magic, while they're not impossible to find, again, it's not impossible to find. You know, you got Gravecaller, you got Bloodghast. It is mainly a black color identity thing to be able to do, is activate from Grave. There was also the Soul Cycle in 19? I don't remember. There was like the Soul of Innistrad, Soul of New Phyrexia, Soul of... I don't remember the other ones. Because Soul of Innistrad and Soul of New Phyrexia are 2 cards that I pulled. I don't remember the other ones. It was a while ago. Anyway, being able to use that ability in your graveyard, like during your opponent's end step right before your turn is going to start, that's great. It doesn't specify there that you can only do it at sorcery speed, so I would assume that means you can do it at instant speed. Guard Mouse, have that one. Steam Path Charger, 2 with a red for a 2/1. Offspring 2. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target player. It's fine. Polywallop 4. Spell cost 1 less for each frog you control. And target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature you don't control. Again, that's a one-sided fight. It's good, just because it's a one-sided fight. Ravine Raider, we had that one. Feed the Cycle. 2 with a black, instant speed. As an additional cost to cast the spell, forage or pay 1 black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. 3 mana to destroy target creature or planeswalker is something that I would likely do at any time. And if I can sacrifice a food to make it cost 2 instead, I probably would. Brazen Collector. 2 with a red for a 2/1. First Strike. Hey, First Strike is good. Whenever Brazen Collector attacks, add red. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. It's a mana dork that actually just wants you to hit your opponent. Lily Splash Mentor. 4 for a 4/4 with Simic colors in the cost. Creature, Frog Druid, Reach. Ooh, I actually really like this ability. 1 colorless, or sorry, 1 generic, I should say. 1 green, 1 blue. Exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. I think that's pretty great. It sucks that it is sorcery speed. I wish it just said during your turn instead of sorcery speed. Because if somebody wants to instant speed turn one of your frogs into a 0/1 frog with no abilities, you can instead just be like, oh, I'm going to bounce this to exile and then return it. So, Mist Breath Elder. 1 for a 2/2 Frog Warrior. At the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Mist Breath Elder. Otherwise, you may return Mist Breath Elder to its owner's hand. For the frog cycle, this is excellent. I think Mist Breath Elder is one of the better frog support cards in the set. It lets you bounce your own cards during upkeep, and then you just get to cast them again and draw more cards or fight more opponents' creatures. It's you can't go wrong with it. Land. Foil is Night Fisher. Excuse me. It is 5 mana for a 4/5 bird knight with flying. Whenever another non-token bird you control enters, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. Neat. You get rewarded for casting more birds. Finch Formation. 3 with a blue for a 2/2 Offspring 3. When this creature enters, target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Once again, same complaint. You're not going to target a creature with flying to give flying to. In Sealed, this would be a great card. I think in like Commander, I don't really see it being used. Or an Elder. Dire Sight. Dire Downdraft. 4 mana for an instant. The spell costs 1 generic less to cast if it targets an attacking or tapped creature. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. The wording there is a little bit ambiguous. Fine. I don't think it's amazing or anything, but it's fine. Tempest Angler. I like that one. Kindle Spark Duo. 3 for a 1/3. It has a tap ability to deal 1 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you untap it. It's a Lizard Otter duo. That one I feel like is pretty good. Because you're getting rewarded for storming. I can only imagine this happening like you grape shot your opponent for like 8 grape shots, and then you're like, well, hold on, I'm going to poke you every time one of those grape shots gets cast. So Treetop Sentries, had that one. Coruscation Mage. 2 with a red for a 2/2 Offspring 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Very good. Very good for the Otter. Is it stack? Or sorry, not stack. What's the word I'm looking for? The Is it play style. It's good for that. Curious Forger. 3 with a green for a 3/2. When it enters, you may forage. When you forage, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty good. I like that. Wandertail Mentor. Honored Dray Leader. 3 with a green for a 1/1 Trampler. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control. Whenever another squirrel or food you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Honored Dray Leader. Very good for squirrels. It's got trample, and you're just going to start piling 1/1 counters on it. So that's a good combination. Dowerport Mage. 2 for a 1/3. Whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, draw a card. 1 generic, 1 blue, and tap this creature. Return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. Pretty good. I feel like normally you're going to be able to draw a lot of cards off that creature. Swamp. Feed the cycle. Bat token. Daggerfang. Pearl of Wisdom. Life Creed. Sazacaps. Pond Prophet. Longstalk Brawl. 1 green, sorcery, gift of giving your opponent a fish. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Put a 1/1 counter on the creature you control if the gift was promised. Then those creatures fight each other. It's good. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I think there's a lot of other one-sided fight cards now that actual two-sided fight cards are a little bit less impactful. But the fact that you get to put a 1/1 counter on your creature if you give your opponent a fish is pretty good. War Squeak. Harnesser of Storms. 3 with a red for a 1/4. Oh, it's another otter. Whenever you cast a non-creature or otter spell, you may exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. This ability triggers only once each turn. You basically get to draw a card off the top of the deck. It doesn't go to your hand, but you have access to it, which is nice. 3 Tree Scribe. 2 with a green for a 2/3. Whenever 3 Tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Dowerport and 3 Tree Scribe together is silly. And if you also have Lily Splash Mentor in play, you are just buffing all of your creatures and getting so many card draws. I think Frogs works pretty well. Brightblade Stoat. 2 with a white for a 2/2 with first strike lifelink. Well, that is just a strictly better Traveling Philosophers. Seasoned Warren-Guard. 1 white for a 1/2. Whenever Seasoned Warren-Guard attacks while you control a token, Seasoned Warren-Guard gets +2/+0 until end of turn. If you can get your token out early, that's a really good 1-mana attacker and sealed. Dowerport Mage, another one. Swamp. Foil is Burrowguard Mentor, Selesnya, so green-white. It is a star with trample. Burrowguard Mentor's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. So at the minimum, it's going to be a 1/1 with trample. I think I said before that I like it. I still like it. I think it's fine. You'd probably want to run it in like a token generating deck or something so that it can come out as like a 50-50 with trample. Psychic Whirl. 3 with a black, sorcery speed. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Then if you control a rat, surveil 2. Thought Shocker. Nettleguard. 2 with a white for a 3/1. Valiant. Whenever Nettleguard becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, it gets +0/+2 until end of turn. You can also sacrifice it and pay 1 colorless, or, well, 1 generic, pardon me, to destroy target artifact or enchantment. I always like to have that option to just sacrifice a creature to get rid of a problem that my opponent has on field. Elenia's Pathmaker. 4 with a red for a 4/2. When it enters, exile the top card of your library. Until end of your next turn, you can play that card. It's always nice. Sunshower Druid, 1 green for a 0/2. When it enters, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. And, oh no, not target creature you control, just target creature. And you gain 1 life. Head at the homestead. Conduct Electricity. 5 with a red. Conduct Electricity deals 6 damage to target creature and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature token. Okay. Patchwork Banner. 3 mana artifact. As it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and it's a mana rock. Great mana rock. Good for tribal. Flamecash Gecko. 2 with a red for a 2/2. When it enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, you add Rakdos to your mana pool. Then you can pay 2, including 1 red to draw a card. Or sorry, discard a card first, then draw a card. Drifloon Coyote, we had that one. Dewdrop Cure. 3 with a white, gift a card. Return up to 2 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the gift was promised, instead return up to 3 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That has a really, I mean, if you're playing mice, I feel like that's really good. Valley Mightcaller. 1 for a 1/1. Frog Warrior. Whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Valley Mightcaller. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It could be pretty cool. Just feel like on its own it's a little weak. Mountain. Early Winter in foil. Got that one. Played Provisioner. Thornplate Intimidator. I don't think I read this one yet. 4 for a 4/3, Offspring 3. When this creature enters, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. I think that's really great for what the rats in this set try to do, which is keep your opponent at 1 card in hand. Shore Up, 1 blue. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. Another pretty decent trick. Hexproof is nice. Have the Homestead. Steampath Charger. Sunshower Druid. Seedpod Squire. 4 with 1 being a split Azorius. It's a 3/3 flyer. When it attacks target creature you control without flying, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I feel like this set, they wanted birds to support not birds. But it's hard to make a tribal deck in birds when all your birds want to power up birds that don't have flying. But there aren't any birds that don't have flying because birds fly. Have I said birds enough? Rabbit Response. 4 with 2 white. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control a rabbit, scry 2. Not bad. Pretty decent because it's everything. Moonstone Harbinger. 3 with a black for a 1/3 flying Death Touch. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats you control get +1/+0 and gain Death Touch until end of turn. This ability triggers only once each turn. Yeah, that's a good one, especially if you use it with the rare bat that I pulled earlier. Blooming Blast. 2 with 1 red, gift a treasure. Blooming Blast deals 2 damage to target creature. If the gift was promised, Blooming Blast deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. So 2 and then 3. It's fine. Definitely not my favorite. Mabel's Metal, 2 with a white. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Up to 1 other target creature you control. Oh no, up to 1 other target creature. It's just target creature. Gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Fountain Port. Fountain Port has a lot of abilities. Sacrifice tokens to draw cards. You can make blue fish creature tokens, and you can make treasure tokens. Mountain. Rush Shield Rampager. It's a 4-drop for a 4/4, offering 2. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. They're too scared. Dire Downdraft. Waxwing Witness. Saver. Mind Drill Assailant. Frilled Sharpshooter. 4 for a 3/3, Menace and Reach. Frilled Sharpshooter enters with a 1/1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. Again, that's just what Rakdos wants to do. They want to hurt their opponent and be rewarded for it. So there's nothing bad about that. Baker's Bane Duo. Bellowing Crier. 2 with a blue for a 2/1. When it enters, draw a card, then discard. I don't love that looting is on that, but it's fine. 4 for a 3/3. Offspring 1 and 1 blue. Interesting. That's the first colored cost I've seen in Offspring. When this creature enters, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Stargaze. X black. Look at twice X cards from the top of your library. Put X cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Lose X life. I think that's pretty good. Repel Calamity. 2 with a white. Destroy target creature with power or toughness 4 or greater. Well, a lot of the things want you to get the creature's power up to 4, so. Valley Rally. 3 with a red. Gift of food. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, and if the gift was promised, target creature you control gains first strike. So it's a blanket +2/+0 buff, and one of your creatures. Wishing Well. 4 with a blue. Artifact. Tap it to put a coin counter on Wishing Well. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value equal to the number of coin counters on Wishing Well from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. I think that's a great way to cheat out spells. Swamp. Foil Lily Splash. 8. Lily Splash is one of the cards that I like, so. Oops. Scales of Shale, 3-drop with a black. Instant speed, this spell costs 1 less for each lizard you control. Target creature gets +2/+0, gains lifelink, and is indestructible until end of turn. Indestructible, I like having indestructible and instant speed stuff. Banishing Light. Waterspout Warden. 3 with a blue, 3/2. Whenever Waterspout Warden attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, Waterspout Warden gains flying until end of turn. Flying is nice. Frilled Sharpshooter. Yeah, we had that one. Polywop. High Stride. Yep. Wildfire Howl. 3 with 2 red in the cost. Gift a card. Wildfire Howl deals 2 damage to each creature. Ooh, well, there goes your Roughshod duo. If the gift was promised, instead, Wildfire Howl deals 1 damage to any target and 2 damage to each creature. I would actually say I don't think the gift a card is worth it. Starscape Cleric, 2 for a 2/1. There is 1 black in the cost. Offspring, oh, there's another colored cost in the Offspring. 2 generic, 1 black. Flying, this creature cannot block. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Nice. Harvest Rite Host, 3 with a white for a 3/3. Whenever Harvest Rite Host or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then draw a card if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn. The second time. Beauregard Mentor. Artist Talent. 2 mana for an enchantment, a level up enchantment. First ability, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Second, you need to pay 2 generic and 1 red. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's great. If a source you final ability, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 more instead. I have a perfect spot for that card in my horrible mono-red deck. Carrot Cake. Carrot Cake. Oh, I guess I should read this one since I haven't pulled it yet. Carrot Cake is an artifact food, so it comes into play. You create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token and scry 1. Again, scry in white. That's pretty nice. You can also sacrifice the Carrot Cake like it was a food token to gain 3 life. In the interest of saving some time as well, I think I might start skimming through the commons and uncommons a little bit faster, but we'll see. Trying to take my time and relax here. Finch Formation. Warren Elder. Glide Dive Duo. Yeah, that's the one that I don't like. It's 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer. And when it enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. If it's every time the creature attacked, it would be way too overpowered. But the fact that it only has an ETB trigger and nothing else is a little bit underwhelming. And 5 mana for this is just too expensive. Nighthowl Hermit. 3 with a blue for a 1/4. Vigilance and Threshold, as long as there are 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Night Whirl Hermit gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. Can't be blocked is great. Kindle Spark. Baker's Bane. Junkblade Bruiser. 5 with 2 Gruul Split cost. 4/5. Trample. Whenever you expend 4, Junkblade Bruiser gets +2/+1 until end of turn. So it can be a 6/6 for 5 every now and again. Heartfire Hero. I think I pulled one of these. Yeah, I did. I remember. 3 Tree Scribe. Vine Reap Mentor. Golgari colors, so black and green for a 3/2. Whenever Vine Reap, Mentor enters or dies, create a food token. Camella, the Seed Miser. Ooh. 3, including the Gruul colors. Or not Gruul, Golgari. For a 3/3, Menace. Other squirrels you control have Menace. Uh-oh. I'm getting an error message. Give me just a moment. Oh, I think it's because I'm dropping so many frames. I have dropped nearly 60% of my frames. Okay. The error message went away, so I can only assume that means it's all better. Other squirrels you control have Menace. Whenever you sacrifice one or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. You can also tap 2 generic and forage to put a 1/1 counter on each other squirrel you control. Camilla. Pretty good. I'm not sure if this is the better commander or if Chatterfang is. I would have to sit down and have a long conversation with myself and figure it out. But I do think that is very good. Season of the Burrow. 5 with 2 white. 5 paws worth of modes. 1 paw, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. 2 paws, exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. 3 paws, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. I can think of worse things, but I think of all the seasons, I don't love this one. I mean, paying 6 for 5 1/1 white rabbit tokens is pretty good. You can also exile 2 target non-land permanents and then make a bunny token. And the controller does draw a card, so you're giving your opponent card advantage, but you're getting rid of their threats that are on the field. So I think it's a pretty fair trade-off, but it costs 5 mana. I don't think it should be a fair trade-off. Forest. High Stride foil. Carrot Cake. Bonebite Oracle. Run away together. Whiskerquill Scribe. 2 with a red for a 2/2. Valiant. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. I don't love the looting effect in Boros colors, but if you just want to run a Whiskerquill Scribe in your Izzet deck for sealed, I get it. Barkform Harvester. 3 generic for a 2/3 changeling and a reach. You can also pay 2 generic to put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. That ability is fine. If you're about to get Bajuka bogged, it's really nice to have the ability to save something from being exiled. But other than that, I think it's kind of weak. Longshock Brawl. Ravine Raider. Daring Wave Rider. 6 with 2 blue for a 4/4. When it enters, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Fine. Huskbuster Swarm. 8 for a 6/6, but it costs 1 less for each creature card you own in exile and in your graveyard. Menace and Death Touch. Well, it is at the very least a way to kill 2 of your opponent's creatures. Once you can start swinging with it. I think the cost reduction is very good, especially if you're in self-mill or whatever. Starseer Mentor. 5 with Orsov colors, so 5 with white and black for a 3/5 Flying Vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Nice. Shortbow. 2 generic for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has vigilance and reach. Equip 1. I like equipment cards that have an equip cost of 1. I think that's very nice. Balin the Haymaker. Naya colors. 4/3. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control. Add 1 mana of any color. Tap 3 untapped tokens you control to draw a card. Tap 4 untapped tokens you control to put 3 1/1 counters on Balin the Haymaker. And then it gains Trample until end of turn. For a 3-drop, this has commander material written all over it. You'd probably have to run rabbits and mice. And at that point, you might as well run all 3 animals in the tribe. So you've got raccoons in there too. Yeah, I think that's a pretty strong commander, Balin. I pulled a promo Balin in my pre-release, so. Oh, I almost forgot. There's the land and what foil? The foil is Mind Spiral. 5 with a blue, gift a tapped fish. Target player draws 3 cards. If the gift was promised, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. I think that's quite good. It's a little bit too expensive. 5 mana is just a little bit expensive. But, it's fine. Oops. Hidden Grotto. When Hidden Grotto enters Surveil 1, you can tap to add a colorless, or you can tap a generic and this to add 1 mana of any color. Costly way to filter your mana. You're basically doing a 2-for-1, but if you really need that mana fixing, it might be worth it. Dazzling Denial. Intrepid Rabbit. 3 with a white for a 3/2. Offspring 1. I like Offspring 1 as a cost. That's a good cost for Offspring. When this creature enters, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Good. It's fine. Dire Sight. Seed Pod Squire. Heaped Harvest. 3 mana with a green, excuse me. When it enters and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I think I talked about Heaped Harvest before. I think this card is quite good. It is basically just a Kodama's Reach that you have to wait to get the second land for. But you can sacrifice... It says when you sacrifice it. It doesn't specify how you sacrifice it, so you can forage with it, or you can sacrifice an artifact and just sacrifice that. Or if your opponent makes you sacrifice a permanent, you can just sacrifice your Heaped Harvest. 3-tree mascot. Hoarder's Overflow. 2 with a red. Enchantment. When Hoarder's Overflow enters and whenever you expend 4, put a stash counter on it. 2 with a red. Sacrifice it. Discard your hand. Then draw cards equal to the number of stash counters on Hoarder's Overflow. That sounds like a hilarious way to just draw your entire deck in an Izzet deck. Hunter's Talent. 2 with a green. When it enters, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. There's another one-sided fight. That's why I'm saying like the regular fight mechanics are just a little lackluster now. You can level it up for another 2 with a green. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. Giving a creature trample. Always good. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Awesome. Good stuff all around. Persistent Marsh Stalker. 2 for a 3/1. The 2 includes 1 black. Persistent Marsh Stalker gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. I might throw that in Relentless Rats just for fun. Whenever you attack with 1 or more rats, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, you may pay 3 with 1 black. If you do, return Persistent Marsh Stalker from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Okay, that's hilarious because not only is it a graveyard effect, but the threshold would count this card in the graveyard before you pay the cost. So, Lupin Flower Village. Wick the World Mind. 4 with 1 black for a 2/4. Rat Warlock. Whenever Wick or another rat you control enters, create a 1/1 black snail creature token if you don't control a snail. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on a snail you control. Grixis colors, sacrifice a snail. Wick deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to each opponent. Then draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. That's fun. I would need to have Grixis colors in my rat deck, and I don't. So it's not going to go in the rat deck, but that is fun. Land. Foil. Foil is Bonebind Orator. Excuse me. Bonebind Orator. Nettleguard. Early Winter. Sky Skipper. Cinderling Cutthroat. Raccoon Rallier. I don't think I read this one yet. 2 with 1 red. 2/2. Tap. Target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. I mean, it's a bear in red. It's fine. It has an ability. Heaped Harvest. Or Squeak. Into the Flood Maw. 1 blue. Gift a tapped fish.
Return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. If the gift was promised, instead return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Good way to get rid of a threatening enchantment or something. Brambleguard Veteran, 3 with 2 green. 3/4. Whenever you expend 4, raccoons you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. Vigilance is a great keyword that you don't usually get to see in red, and raccoons are green-red, so that's nice. The Mentor, Heirloom Epic, 1 generic for an artifact, 4 generic tap, draw a card. For each mana in this ability's activation cost, you may tap an untapped creature you control rather than pay that mana. Activate only as a sorcery. I don't love this card because I feel like the cost is too much, but if you're generating a bunch of tokens, I think that you can just tap your tokens that come into play and you can't attack with, because it force taps them. Dawn's Truce. 2 with a white. Instant speed. Gift a card. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of next turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. Very good protection. It's basically a what's it called? The green instant that makes all your raise shields or something. I don't remember. It's a good card. This is a good card. They're both good cards. Swamp. Foil is Agate Assault. 3 mana, choose 1. Oh, 3 mana with 1 red, excuse me. Choose 1. Agate Assault deals 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Or exile target artifact. Nice. Nothing wrong with that. Having a choice on a burn spell, very, very nice. We like choices. Pearl of Wisdom, Pileated Provisioner, Psychic Whirl, Sunshower Druid, Head of the Homestead, Conduit Electricity, Ravine Raider, Fell. 2 with 1 black, sorcery speed, destroy target creature. The fact that it's sorcery speed is a little bit sad. It should be okay, though. There's other instant speed black kill spells. Hazard Root Herbalist. 3 with a green for a 1/4. Whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If that creature is a token, it also gains Death Touch until end of turn. Very good versatility. I like being able to give crappy little 1/1 token creatures Death Touch. Lupin Flower Village. Seasoned Warren Guard. We had that one. Tender Wild Guide. Love this one. 2 with a green for a 2/2. Offspring 2. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or you can tap it to put a 1/1 counter on this creature. It can only target itself, but if you pay the offspring cost, its offspring is the same thing. So you can just have 2 creatures that just keep juicing themselves. Probably better in sealed, but I can definitely see it's a mana dork. It's a 2-drop mana dork. You can run that in pretty much any green EDH deck. Conduit Electricity. I think I've got through most of the commons and uncommons at this point. This is just a formality at this point. Yeah, saw those. Saw that. Ooh, there's one. Quake Tusk Boar. 5 with 2 red for a 5/5 with Reach, Trample, Haste. Reach, Trample, Haste. I mean, you get what it says on the tin. It's a big beater, and it's got some good keywords. Not much more to say about it. Seedglaive Mentor. 3 with Boros colors, so red and white. 3/2, Vigilance Haste. Whenever Seedglaive Mentor becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. That's good. I like 3 for a 3/2 Vigilance Haste. That's quite good. I like that one. Byway Barterer. 3 with a red for a 3/3. Menace. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. You can just keep throwing your hand away. Here it is up close. I forgot to do that for the first couple. I think the glare is a little bit less of a problem this time. I think this is a better spot for my light. Osteomancer Adept. 2 with a black for a 2/2. Squirrel Warlock Death Touch. Tap it. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. What? That is so good. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. That's excellent. Especially if you have a way to eat the finality counter so that it can just go back to your graveyard again. That's really, really good. Foil Swamp. And a foil Shore Up. Shore Up. Shore Up. Now we're moving. I'm only explaining like three cards per pack now. Nocturnal Hunger, Mind Spiral, Thistledown Players, Rush Shield Rampager, Seedpod Squire, Sazakap's Brew, Treeguard Duo, Persistent Marshstalker, Brambleguard Veteran. Hey, Mudflat Village. Tap to add a colorless or tap to add a black. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. 1 generic, 1 black, tap sack. Return target bat, lizard, rat, or squirrel card from your graveyard to your hand. In its color identity, I think that's great. In its tribal identities, I think that's great. In EDH, I would run that in a bat deck. I would definitely do that. I think it's a good option. It's a great option. Heirloom Epic. Phineas, Ace Archer. Selesnya colors for a 2/2 Vigilance Reach. Whenever Phineas Ace Archer attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control that's a token or a rabbit. Then, if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater, draw a card. I think Phineas is pretty good. I don't think his ability is too powerful. I don't think it's too weak. It just lets you draw cards. And you get to put a bunch of 1/1 counters on your rabbits. Land. Wildfire Howl, we had that one earlier. Don't think that one's gift cost is worth paying. Battleguard. Early Winter. Lightshell Duo. Almost Pathmaker. Rush Shield Rampager. Mindful Assailant. Rabbit Response. Starshaped Cleric. Playful Shove. Otterball Antics. Feather of Flight. 2 mana with one being white. Flash, enchant creature. When Feather of Flight enters, draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. I like that. It's a cantrip that has flash. You get to surprise your opponent by, oh, my rabbit can fly now, by the way. It's good. Storm Splitter. 4 with a red for a 1/4. Haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. Oh, Storm Splinter, excuse me. So this is just a grape shot that is a body on the field. Running a storm deck, pretty good. Pretty good to have 850,000 little 1/1 tokens that go away at the end of turn, but they're really good at blocking. They're really good at sucking damage to the face so that you don't die. Island. Raccoon Rallier. Charlotte Soothsayer. 3 with a black for a 2/2 flyer. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, surveil 1. That's very good utility. Thought Shocker. Intrepid Rabbit. I've read that one. Yep. Moonrise Cleric. I don't think I've read that one. 3 with 2 Orsov cost in the mana cost. 2/3 flyer. Whenever it attacks, gain a life. Nothing wrong with that. Great. Bravekin Duo. 1 for a 1/1. 1 generic tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. I like this one because it's 1 mana. I like 1 for 1/1s. This also, if it's about to die, you just get to give one of your other creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. It has a fine... I guess you can only activate it as a sorcery. It's not as good then. Long River's Pull. Ooh, Galewind Moose. 6 with 2 green for a 6/6 with Flash. Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Excellent card. It is just a big dude, and he hits. That's it. He just hits. You get to play him on your opponent's combat step even. You know, they swing in with their 5/5 thinking, haha, I got you, and then you flash in a 6/6, which eats the 5/5, and then you just get to swing in with a 6/6 your next turn for free because it's got Vigilance. Crazy. Flowerfoot Swordmaster. 1 for a 1/2, offspring 2. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, mice you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So that would stack. If you make the offspring, you can target the actual creature, and then you can target the token that it makes, and then all of your mice can get +2/+0. Not bad. Coiling Rebirth. 5 with 2 black. Sorcery. Gift a card. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then, if the gift was promised and that creature isn't legendary, create a token that's a copy of that creature except it's a 1/1. I can think of a lot of instances where this is great. I mean, sure, 5 mana for a Reanimate, it's a little bit expensive, but if you get the 1/1 token copy as well, it's fine. It's pretty good having the option to get the token copy. Island. Driftloon Coyote is the foil. Waterspout Warden, Psychic Whirl, Banishing Light, Raccoon Rallier, Rush Shield Rampager, Barkform Harvester, Agate Assault, Calamitous Tide, 6 with 2 blue. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. I think Whelming Wave is just better. I think Whelming Wave is the one that I'm thinking of. Cyclonic Rift is definitely just better. I don't love that you have to discard a card, but if you're in black and blue, it's probably fine. You probably want to discard that card anyway, because it does better in the graveyard than it does in your hand. Hazel's Nocturne. 4 with 1 black. Instant speed. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Sounds great for a bat deck. Sounds great for a squirrel deck. Sounds fine for a rat deck. Fine for a lizard deck. That's the 4 black tribes, and it sounds good for half and fine. Like, you wouldn't not want to do it for the other 2. Shrike Force. 3 with a white, 1/3 flying double strike vigilance. Lots of keywords. I feel like it's a little bit weak, but if you're able to bump its attack up even a little bit with double strike, it makes it really, really worth it. Dewdrop Cure. Valley Floodcaller. 3 with a blue for a 2/2 flash. You may cast non-creature spells as though they had flash. Being able to cast sorcery speed spells at instant speed is always a good thing. Generally, if a spell is sorcery speed, it is balanced, that you can only cast it on your turn. If you are allowed to cast a sorcery spell on your opponent's turn, it's usually very good. Has another effect even too. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, and rats you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap them. So you play a spell on your opponent's turn. All of your otters get untapped and get +1/+1 until end of turn. Very good. It fits the otter, what the otters want to do. That one's good. I like that one a lot. That might actually be my favorite caller. Mountain. Foil is a Moonrise Cleric. Search for M. Moonrise Cleric. Put that away. Having a little bit of trouble with the stream. I do have my stream open on my phone just so I can see what other people are seeing. That's why I know my frames are bad a lot of the time. I think I just need to get a better internet connection. Life Creed. Thornplate. Pearl of Wisdom. Sonar Strike. I haven't seen this one yet. 2 with a white. Sonar Strike deals 4 damage to target attacking, blocking, or tapped creature. You gain 3 life if you control a bat. Pretty good. Just fine. 3 tree mascot. Agate Assault. Sunshower Druid. Bravekin Duo. Patchwork Banner. Harnesser of Storms. I don't know if I read that one. I did. Mudflat. The infamous Cruel Claw. 3 with Rakdos colors, so black and red, for a 3/3 menace. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. This card is breaking so many people's trust. I think Cruel Claw is fine. It's not nearly as good as Atali, because Atali targets every player, not just... Ooh, foil Patchwork Banner. Not just you. Happy about a foil Patchwork Banner. Thought Shulker, or Shucker, I mean. Metal Guard, Nocturnal Hunger, Rush Shield Rampager, Seed Pod Squire, Sazakap's Brew, Tree Guard Duo, Bone Cache Overseer, haven't seen that one yet. 1 black for a 1/1. Squirrel Warlock, pay 1 life, draw a card, activate only if 3 or more cards left your graveyard this turn, or if you've sacrificed a food this turn. Wow. Well, the obvious way to do that, the ability at the bottom, is to, what's it called? Forage. That's it. Obvious way to trigger that is to forage. But there's other ways to make cards leave your graveyard. So I like that it is worded like that instead of saying whenever you forage. There's also other reasons to sacrifice foods. Splash Portal. 1 blue. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If that creature is a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card. Great. Wear Down. 2 with 1 green. Gift a card. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Great to have the ability to choose if you want to do 2. Portent of Calamity. X blue. Reveal the top X cards of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Put the rest into your graveyard. You may then cast a spell from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. If you exiled 4 or more cards this way... oh, that was part of the same sentence. You may then cast a spell from among them, from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost, if you exiled 4 or more cards this way. Then put the rest of the exiled cards into your hand. I understand. So it's basically just you draw X cards, but of those, as long as you had 4 or more different kinds of cards. Different kinds? Yes. Different types. And then you get to play one for free. Forest. And the foil is Mabel's Metal. Rawl's Emblem. I'd love to pull a Rawl. That roll's good. Carrot Cake, Agate Blade Assassin, Uncharted Haven, Whisper Quill Scribe, Longstalk Brawl, Bumbleflower's Sharepot. 2-drop artifact. When Bumbleflower's Sharepot enters, create a food token. Tap 5 generic, tap the Sharepot, sacrifice the Sharepot, destroy target non-land permanent. Activate only as a sorcery. Not bad. I think Universal Solvent is better. It costs more to activate, but you can activate it at instant speed, which is the difference. Bravekin Duo. Night Fisher. Sinister Monolith. 4 with a black for an artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Tap, pay 2 life, sacrifice Sinister Monolith, draw 2 cards, activate only as a sorcery. I actually think this artifact is quite good for commander play because you get to trigger abilities that happen when opponents lose life. You get to trigger abilities that happen when you gain life. And you have the option to just get rid of it to draw 2 cards. It's fine. It takes up a card slot. Star Charter. 4 with a white for a 3/1 flyer. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. It's fine. It's constant deck searching shenanigans. Ruthless Negotiation. 1 black. Target opponent exiles a card from their hand. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, draw a card. And it has a flashback of 5. And it's exile, not discard, so that's pretty good. Hey, an Innkeeper's Talent. I have an Innkeeper's Talent already, but I don't think having another hurts. In fact, I could probably stand to put it in another deck. So, it's a 2-drop enchantment. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Great. You level it up to level 2 for 1 green. Permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1. Makes it harder for your opponents to target stuff. Ward 1 isn't that amazing, but it's still pretty good. 4 with a green. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. I like that it says permanent or player. Experience counters in Commander are placed on the player. Poison counters are placed on a player. Energy counters are placed on a player. You can double them. Innkeeper's Talent is great. It's a doubling season that's a little bit slower. Island. Pond Prophet as the foil. I guess I shouldn't say it's a doubling season because doubling season specifically doesn't say players. And doubling season also includes tokens. And Innkeepers doesn't include tokens. So it's a slightly more different doubling season. That's how you describe it. It's like a doubling season, but it's also different from a doubling season. Uncharted Haven, Sonar Strike, Scales of Shale, Bumbleflower, Might of the Meek, 3-tree Root Weaver. Oh, I haven't pulled this one yet. It's a common that I haven't seen. 2 with a green for a 1/3 mana dork. 1 mana of any color. Any color. Quite nice. Veteran Guard Mouse. Hivespine Wolverine. Brambleguard Captain. 4 with a red for a 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is Brambleguard Captain's power. It's target creature. It can target itself. But it's probably better to target a creature that has Valiant. So. Rockface Village. Tap to add a colorless, or tap to add a red. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. Red tap, target lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. That one's excellent because the fact that it is in red and you can target a mouse, that means you can trigger your Valiant abilities with this card. So, again, it's fine. It's good. I like being able to trigger my Valiant abilities without burning spells. Mabel, Heir to Cragflame. 3 Boros colors in the 3/3. Other mice you control get +1/+1. When Mabel, Heir to Cragflame enters, create Cragflame, a legendary colorless equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Equip 2. Okay. I wish the equipment wasn't legendary, because then you could just stack a whole bunch of them, but I also understand why it is legendary, so that you can't stack a bunch of them. It's a soldier. I think it's pretty alright. I like Mabel. I think she would be a fun commander. Season of the Bold. I think this one is actually the worst. Choose 5 paws worth of modes. You can choose the same mode more than once. 1 paw, create a tapped treasure token. That word right there, tapped. A tapped treasure token. That might as well be nothing, especially as on a sorcery speed. Like, you can't use that token until your next turn. It's a bit of a bummer. Oh, come on. Focus. 2. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play them. It does give you until the end of your next turn, so if you're late game and you just don't have anything, you're like, okay, well, this will give me an extra 4 cards, and I guess I get a treasure token to help me play with that. Until the end of your next turn, whenever you cast a spell, Season of the Bold deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature. And it specifies creature. It's a little bit rough. If you have Storm going, then that might be pretty good, because you cast your Season of the Bold, you cast whatever, and then you cast your 30 Grape Shots, Then, it's 2 damage 30 times to creatures. Bam, 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 bam. That's good. That's a niche scenario. I think Season of the Bold is bad. I don't like it. Season of the Burrow, I think, is better than Season of the Bold, and I don't love Season of the Burrow either. There's our land. A fecund green shell. A little bit annoyed that that's my foil rare because I already have one. That's okay. It's 5 for a 4/6 turtle with reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever it or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield, tapped. Otherwise, you put it into your hand. Ooh, the glare is horrible on that. Let me block some of the light. Hard to see the foil cards anyway. It might be better out of the sleeve. I think the sleeve is actually hurting today. Yeah. That's better. Fun, but I don't think it's the best rare in the set. Down to the last 9 packs, which is good because this recording is starting to get really, really long. Mind Spiral. Crumb and get it. Scales of Shale. Roughshod Duo. 3-Tree Root Weaver. Cindering Cutthroat. Kindle Spark Duo. Rabbit Response. Brazen Collector. Shoreline Looter. There's one I haven't seen yet. 2 with a blue for a 1/1. Shoreline Looter cannot be blocked. Threshold. Whenever Shoreline Looter deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Then discard a card unless 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Pretty nice. Mouse Trapper. 3 with a white for a 3/2 flash. Whenever Mouse Trapper becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, tap target creature an opponent controls. Pretty good for getting out of a tight situation. Kidnap. 4 with 2 blue. Gift a card. Enchant creature. When Kidnap enters, tap enchanted creature. If the gift wasn't promised, put 3 stun counters on it. You control enchanted creature. Kidnap. Pretty good. Steal a card. Foil Forest. Foil Dire Sight. Shore Up, Waxwane Witness, Savor, Waterspout Warden, Agate Assault, Heaped Harvest, Junkblade Bruiser, Brambleguard Captain, Hazel's Nocturne, Flowerfoot Swordmaster, Tangle Tumbler, 3 mana, Artifact Vehicle, Vigilance, tap 3 generic and tap this. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control. Tangle Tumbler becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. And it's a 6/6. Thornvault Forager. 2 with a green for a 2/2. Tap to add 1 green. Tap to forage, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. 4 with a green, tap, search your library for a scroll card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Not bad. Being able to tutor for a squirrel sounds like a very good thing to be able to do playing a squirrel deck. Foil Mountain. Foil Essence Channeler. Another rare. We already had an Essence Channeler. Well, that was 2 foil rares in the pack. Probably won't find another. That's okay. Thornplate Intimidator. Night Whirl Hermit, Glide Dive Duo, Sonar Strike, Treetop Sentries, Corpseberry Cultivator, 3 with 2 Golgari splits, 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may forage. Whenever you forage, put a 1/1 counter on Corpseberry Cultivator. Pretty okay. Sugarcoat. 3 with a blue, aura, flash, enchant creature, or food. Enchanted permanent is a colorless food artifact with 2 tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life, and loses all other card types and abilities. I think that it would still technically have power and toughness if you enchant a creature. Quaketusk Boar. Fireglass Mentor, Rakdos color, 2/1. At the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Vren the Relentless. 4 for a 3/4 rat. It has Ward 2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of each end step, create X/1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures your opponent controlled that were exiled this turn. Wow. Would you like some rats with your rats? I think Vren is a very good commander. Swamp. Rabbit Response. Getting down to the end, which is good. It is 10:15. Getting late. Light Shell, Banishing Light, Dagger Fang, Steam Path, Polywallop, Corpseberry Cultivator, Fountain Port Bell. I haven't pulled one of these yet today. 1 generic for an artifact. When Fountain Port Bell enters, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. 1 generic, sacrifice, draw a card. Hey, haven't seen this one yet either. Flamecash Gecko. 2 with 1 red, 2/2. When it enters... Oh, wait, I have read that one. Never mind. Maybe I haven't read this one. No, I have. Tidecaller Mentor. 3 with a Dimir. So, I'm staring right at it. Blue-black. There we go. 3/3. Menace. Threshold. When Tidecaller Mentor enters, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Starfall Invocation. It's a 5-drop with 2 white. Sorcery speed. Gift a card. Destroy all creatures. If the gift was promised, return a creature card put into your graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. I think that's pretty good. It's a wipe, but you can keep something. Helga, Skittish Seer. Bont colors, 1/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a 1/1 counter on Helga, Skittish Seer. Tap, add X mana of any 1 color, where X is Helga, Skittish Seer's power. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater, or creature spells with X in their mana costs. Helga. Helga's pretty good. I pulled Helga in pre-release, but I did not have a pool that let me play her. Hidden Grotto. Yeah. Nightroll Hermit, Bloomburrow Orator, Dire Downdraft, Moonshine Cleric, or Moonrise Cleric, Conduct Electricity, Cash Grab, hey, Cash Grab, Fountain Port Bell, Stargaze, Shoreline Looter, Parting Guest, 2 white, gift a tapped fish, exile target non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it, at the beginning of the end step. That's really cool because basically, if you want to target your own creature, you don't pay the gift cost, or you don't give the gift. But if you want to target your opponent's creature, you give them a fish. That's really cool. I really like that one. Builder's Talent. Oh boy. Another wall of text. When Builder's Talent enters, create a 0/4 white wall creature token with Defender. Level it up for 1 white. Whenever one or more non-creature, non-land permanents you control enter, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Non-creature, non-land permanents. Okay. The last ability is 5 with 1 white. Yeah. When this class becomes level 3, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Interesting. Paw Patch Recruit. 1 green for a 2/1. Offspring 2. Trample. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. Land. Foil. Crumb and get it. Down to the last 4. Mind Spiral, Thistledown Players, Starlit Soothsayer, Moonrise Cleric, Frilled Sparkshooter, Druid of the Spade, High Stride, Downwind Ambusher, 4 with a black for a 4/2 Skunk Assassin. Flash. When it enters, choose 1. Target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Okay. I like it. Overprotect. 2 with a green. Target creature you control gets +3/+3 and gains Trample, Hexproof, Indestructible until end of turn. Nice. It's too bad it's only 1 creature. Feather of Flight. Gossip's Talent. Oh boy, it's another talent. 2 with a blue. Whenever a creature you control enters, surveil 1. You can level it up to level 2 for 2 with a blue. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. 4 with a blue to level it to level 3. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Sounds really good for frogs. Valley Rot Color. I think I already pulled one of these. I did, but not today. 2 and a black for a 1/3 menace. Whenever Valley Rot Color attacks, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. I think that has the potential to be quite good. Foil Island. Barkform Harvester. Hey, it's Runaway Together. I like that one. Situationally, it can be extremely good, and otherwise, it's, hey, both of you put a creature back in your hand. Haha. Carrot Cake. Uncharted Haven. Glide Dive Duo. Corpseberry Cultivator. Might of the Meek. 3-Tree Root Weaver. Pond Prophet. Thought Stalker Warlock. Did I read this one? I don't think I did. 3 with a black for a 2/2. Menace. When it enters, choose target opponent. If they have lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. Hazardous Herbalist, Jolly Gerbils, Starforged Sword, 4 generic for an artifact equipment. Gift to tap fish. When Starforged Sword enters, if the gift was promised, attach Starforged Sword to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and loses flying. Equipped for 3. For the common good, XX green. Sorcery speed. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then, tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn. You gain X life for each token you control. Oh, sorry, not X. 1. You gain 1 life for each token you control. X life would be insane. For the common good. One of the good cards in the set. Long River Lurker. 3 with a blue for a 2/3. Frog Scout, Ward 1. Other frogs you control have Ward 1. When Long River Lurker enters, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals combat damage this turn, you may exile it. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Nice. I think that's a very strong asset to the frog deck. Intrepid Rabbit, Starlit Soothsayer, Hidden Grotto, Raccoon Rallier, Druid of the Spade, Bumbleflower's Sharepot, High Stride, Wildfire Howl, Bark Knuckle Boxer. I don't think I've pulled that one today yet. 2 with a green for a 3/2. Whenever you expend 4, Bark Knuckle Boxer gains indestructible until end of turn. Oak Hollow Village. Tap to add a colorless. Tap to add a green. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Green tap. Put a 1/1 counter on each frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control that entered the battlefield this turn. I would definitely put that in the squirrel deck, because if you make a crap load of squirrel tokens and then put a 1/1 counter on each of them, that sounds pretty good to me. Storm Chaser's Talon. 1 blue. When Storm Chaser's Talent enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter token with prowess. Level up for 3 generic 1 blue. When this class becomes level 2, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Then 5 generic and a 1 blue to get to level 3. Whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. That is terrifying. Storm Chaser Talent. It's very expensive to get going, but... Oh, another talent. Scavenger's Talent. 1 black. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Level up to 2 for 1 generic, 1 black. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. And 2 generic and 1 black to get to level 3. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. I think that it is another great card to put in the squirrel deck. Forest. A foil Clifftop Lookout. I like that guy. And we're down to the last pack. I only spent nearly 3 hours streaming. Wow. Psychic Whirl, Mind Spiral, Hidden Grotto, Pileated Provisioner, Whisker Quill Scribe, Cash Grab, Tempest Angler, Rabid Gnaw, Long River Lurker, Stormcatch Mentor. Is it colors for a 1/1 haste prowess? Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. Excellent. Wear down. Caretaker's Talent. 2 and a white. Whenever one or more tokens you control enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Level 2. For 1 white. When this class becomes level 2, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. And to get it to level 3, it's 3 generic and a white. Creature tokens you control get +2/+2. I think I pulled all 5 talents. Foil planes. Let's check. Seed Pod Squire. I don't like this guy. But he is shiny, so it's fine. I'll show you how the sausage is made a little bit. This is the stack of commons and uncommons that I will have to sort out later. I sort by converted mana cost and then alphabetical within the converted mana cost. These are foils. Just foil commons and uncommons. They get sorted alphabetically. Rares, again, sorted alphabetically. And foil rares here. I sleeve them and then they get sorted alphabetically. So, let's see. Move this stuff a little bit. You can move to the side. So we have Artist Talent, which is the red rare. Caretaker's Talent, which is white. Innkeepers, which is the green one. Scavengers, which is black. And Storm Chasers, which is blue. Wow, I pulled all 5 of the talents out of one box. Okay, well, it wasn't a total loss. I would have liked to have seen Rawl. I think this iteration of Rawl is very powerful. A little bit hard to get his ult off, but hey, high risk, high reward. It's definitely worth getting it off if you do. And I don't have a box to open for next week. I think what I'll do is I will work on EDH decks. I wanted to create an EDH deck for each of the Clue commanders, or the legendary creatures that came with the Clue Ravnica edition set. So I have some stacks of piles, some piles of cards together to start working with. But I need some help with the red one to be certain. The red one, I think that commander is terrible. So if I can get some help with that, I'd appreciate it. We'll see how it goes. But if you tuned in, thanks. And if you tuned in later after the recording, I hope this helped you do whatever you were doing or you enjoyed watching it. So, gonna stop now. Goodbye.